What's going on, guys? Drewzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video, guys. Earlier this week, actually just a couple episodes ago, I made a video talking about the upcoming balance changes that were announced by Red Links just a few days prior to making this video. Currently, also, the event is going on, the new weekend event right now, the Mystical event, and as of right now, as you can see, I'm a little over halfway through the event. It's not been that difficult. Obviously, this is one of those ones where you're just gathering lotus flowers from packs and or lockers within PvP. But that's not what we're here to talk about here, guys. We're here to talk about cards that I think need to get the next batch of upgrades within the game right now. As you do, there were a plethora of cards that were balanced here coming forward now when the new season starts for Season 4. That Chicken Coop and amazingly Randy would get buffs, Gizmo Ike, all of the Randy cards in general, Pope Timmy, Purify Powerbind, that Calamity Heidi, Smuggler Ike, and Ratsworm were getting nerfs. Something that's strikingly in common with pretty much every card that's getting some kind of buff, except for just a handful. All of them are probably considered low tier cards right now within the game. So what I want to talk about is some other lower tier cards currently within the PvP meta that I think need to be shown some love here relatively soon, because there are still a ton of cards that are still very underutilized, as that seemed to be what the main focus was from the Red Links team, was to focus on cards that were not being used very much within the game. There's still quite a few left, in my opinion, that still need probably some of this kind of treatment. Some of these cards are cards that I've talked about in some other videos as far as cards that need tweaking, and are cards that you don't need to be putting upgrade materials into in my 5 up 5 down series. But I feel like all these cards, all 5 of them that I'm going to talk about here in this video, need to get some love here relatively soon. I'm going to try to give some suggestions as far as maybe some upgrades to give them, as I'm not really quite sure how they would go about it. But my assumption is if any update or buff was done to any of these 5 cards that I'm going to mention, a lot of them will probably be similar to what we've already seen with some of the other cards that just recently got updates. So the first card we are going to talk about is, of course, Medicine Woman Sharon, guys. And I think Medicine Woman Sharon needs it because she is terrible. I think she's terrible. Some of you have disagreed with me in my 5 up 5 down series, saying Medicine Woman Sharon is fine where she's at. She is a low tier card still. Her energy is fine. You can keep her at the 4, keep her, obviously you're not going to change her rarity or her energy level, most likely, but you're going to need to increase the amount of damage she does, or increase the amount of health she has, or increase her range. That would probably be the best thing you could do, is make her range of 4 from the 3.5 that she currently has, and then boost her damage and health slightly. That would be the suggestion I would make. It's not completely overpowering, but at least reasonable. I don't even know what her base damage even was, to be honest with you, because I have her at 3 of 5. I would assume, my memory probably serves me right, I assume her base damage was a 20. So maybe make it like 30 or 35, something like that, and then increase her base health, which I assume was probably somewhere around 115. I don't, again, I don't remember. Let's say make it 150, 160, something like that. Make it a little bit stronger, make her, better early on. I just think she's completely terrible right now within the game. But again, all these cards are probably going to be debated to some degree, but let me know down below what you think of any of the cards that I'm going to mention, and or suggestions you have on top of what I'm going to suggest for updates to make to these cards. Now, this one that I'm going to talk about, some of you may thoroughly disagree with me, but I think Marine Craig, for what he does, he's still not quite strong enough for what he needs to be. I think that his damage at the 34 that he's at needs to go up a little bit. Right now, as you can see, I have him 26 of 40, so I have him very early on in level 4, but he needs to get a little bit stronger, in my opinion. I don't think Marine Craig, I like his chip damage potential with his poison damage, essentially I like his Warcry the way it is. Maybe add a little bit of more damage to it if you want to. I don't think it's necessary, but his overall base stats need to go up, in my opinion, because Marine Craig is so underutilized. I think primarily because once his Warcry's over, he's basically a crappy range card, in my opinion. Obviously, Sci-Fi does have 2 pretty good range units in Robo Bebe and Mecha Timmy, but I think at adding Marine Craig to the mix as far as being legitimate in the Sci-Fi theme would be nice. I mean, yes, he is still utilized. He's used in Legendary Arenas. He's used in the Silver Shields and in all levels of PvP. But I just think he's still not quite there yet. I think that if you just give him a little bit of damage, and maybe a little bit of health boost, or increase his range, make it a 4 over a 3, do things like that to make Marine Craig a little bit more viable. Because right now, he's not quite there yet, in my opinion. But this might be the hottest debated of the 5 that I'm going to mention, because he is probably the most utilized out of the rest of these that I'm going to talk about, in all honesty. But I think Marine Craig needs a little bit more love to be a little bit stronger. But again, let me know down below what you guys think. My next card, Program Stan. Now, I need Program Stan to get better primarily because I'm about to get him to level 4. Now, that's not the reason. I mean, yeah, it would be nice, but in all honesty, out of all of the stands, he's the worst now, in all reality. So he probably needs to be up a little bit more. I mean, Stan the Great is just so devastating right now that pretty much a lot of people are rolling sci-fi fantasy right now. Fantasy is probably one of the most used sub-themes within the game right now. It may not be a main theme for a lot of people. Maybe it is. But I think it's definitely a good support theme with someone like Stan the Great, with Butters and Kenny, things like that. Maybe some Underpants Gnomes, using the Assassins and Swarm units, and Rogue Token, of course, is very, very strong. Using units like that. Some of the other cards within the fantasy theme might not be utilized at all. And then you turn to other themes to assist in that. And I just think Program Stan is underperforming. Even Poseidon Stan is stronger, in my opinion. And Stand of Many Moons got a huge buff to his base ultimate damage, essentially, or charged ability, to where it just devastates a little bit more now, way more than it did prior to at the beginning of the game's launch. So I think Program Stan needs a little bit of love. I would say definitely a boost to health. I think he's too squishy for an epic card right now. I think he needs to have a little, more health, definitely. Damage-wise, you could maybe tweak it a little bit, give him a couple more damage from his base stat. I don't think you need to give him a ton more damage. I mean, I'll take it. But if you look at it, that a level 5 Program Stan even has around 90-some damage, I believe, at the first part of level 5. And then you've got, I'm about to get him to level 4 Epic for Program Stan, and he's not even going to get to 90 in attack. He's only going to be at 85. So definitely need a little bit of tweak to damage for sure, and definitely needs a tweak to health, in my opinion, to make him a little bit more viable. But he's definitely a card that I really, really liked in the beginning of the game. I have really kind of worked to level him up, primarily because I was getting so freaking many of them. As you can see now, I'm at 24, 25. He will be my first level 4 epic most likely, and when he does, I will probably make a video about it, maybe making some screw around deck with him to see if he's actually viable. But he definitely needs to be stronger for sure. Another card that definitely needs some love, Warboy Tweak. Warboy Tweak's Warcry ability sounds amazing and was pretty good in the early phases of the game, and still used very, very rarely, mostly if he's utilized in kind of... a lot of people kind of used him very briefly. The last time I remember him utilized quite a bit was during the Mr. Hanky events, when you had the cards with charged abilities. But outside of that, Warboy Tweak pretty much is irrelevant or not used at all. I mean, Hyperdrive provides a lot more value than Warboy Tweak does for the same cost, and you would think, oh, Warboy Tweak basically gives a very minimal Hyperdrive, but then also is a card that can do damage. But he doesn't do hardly any damage, and he can barely survive worth a crap, and at 4 energy is not worth it to me, and worth it to probably a ton of people. I don't think this one will be debated. Warboy Tweak definitely needs a boost to all of his baseline stats for sure. I think his range is fine. I think his power duration, maybe give it a little bit more power duration. Maybe add another second to it. That might be a lot, but I think you definitely need to make him more usable or viable if you're really trying to make it to where more cards are able to be played, which I think is kind of what they're trying to go to as far as what Redlinks is doing with these balance changes, is trying to add more diversity to the game by adding more cards in that a lot of people aren't utilizing, which makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Why nerf everything when you just bring other stuff up to the same level or around the same level to where more variety can be played? I think that's ultimately what would make this game feel more balanced, if that's the end game at the end of the day once all these balance changes are done. But definitely the primary thing that needs to be done is fixing all the bugs and glitching problems that are happening right now, more so than all these balance changes. But this is just something that in the future, hopefully, some of these cards also get some love, similar to what we've seen already. And the last card we're going to talk about is one that was mentioned a couple times in the comment section in the upgrade video, and one that I've talked about in my legendary that doesn't feel legendary video is Witch Doctor Token, for a lot of reasons, because he is probably one of the least used legendary cards I've seen within the game, in all honesty. I mean, I've still seen every so often a Man-Bear Pig, you know, in Legendary Arena, or even Inuit Kenny at times, which is still a card that's kind of hit and miss. You don't see him a lot in the arena. Even Shieldmanu Wendy at times can be kind of hit and miss. Witch Doctor Token is a miss. Like, I don't see him played hardly at all. And I've got him to level 2. I know a lot of people that seem to have gotten him to level 2, or some may not even have him at all. But he needs a definite boost in health and damage. His animation for his charged ability needs to be changed immediately, because it is way too long and it's not strong enough to sustain him and actually make him useful. So Witch Doctor Token needs a lot of tweaking to be done. Outside of that, I mean, in all reality, if you got it to where his animation was better and he was a little bit stronger in both his baseline stats, then he would be playable again. But I mean, if you maybe have the charged ability, have the animation, would be almost the same level of buff, in my opinion, to what Stand of Many Moons just got. Because this, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it or ever tried to do it. It is insanely long, and I don't really know the duration of the charged ability, like the actual animation, but if it was halved, then he would be viable, in my opinion. But until that point, he's not going to be, and nobody's going to use him, when the best token right now is Rogue Token, pretty much without question, and he's the most popular. Maybe this would put him in a category where you could see him being played a little bit more. I mean, mystical theme is sort of dying off right now. You just don't see it as much, or it's not as viable. This would maybe boost it just slightly to make it a little bit better and make mystical played more often. But I hope this video doesn't go on too long, guys. But I just wanted to talk about these 5 cards that I think need to get some love here in the future. But if there's any cards that I missed that you guys really think that I should talk about, that I haven't really talked about multiple times in other videos, as that's what I was trying not to avoid as much as possible in this video, was talk about some different cards I may or may not have really talked about needing tweaking or needing balance changes. Because these are probably, at least the cards that I've mentioned in these, a lot of them, at least 3, probably 4 out of the 5, except for Marine Craig, are probably not used hardly at all within the game in the grand scheme of things. And obviously that I feel that one of the big things that I think Red Lynx was trying to do with these balance changes, like I've said already, is to try to balance the game out more and make more variety within the game. And that's ultimately what a lot of us probably want, is to, if there might be a card that we really like, but isn't really playable, and if they got, you know, if it was able to get a good enough buff to where it was close to even keel with a lot of the other major cards that a lot of people prefer to play, then maybe it would just make more variety and make the game more interesting. But again, let me know down below what you guys think of other card suggestions or anything I missed, if you agree, disagree with some of the stuff I talked about here. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. You guys are amazing. The channel continues to grow, and it's awesome. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, guys, my name is Drewzy.